I am Meta Gorup, and I'm one of the co-editors of the book Why the World Needs Anthropologists. I'm speaking today to Steffen Jöhncke, who is the author of chapter 5 in the book, which is titled Making Anthropology Relevant to Other People's Problems. Hello, Steffen.
Hi.
You begin your chapter with a critique of what you refer to as the Church of Anthropology. So could you tell us a bit more about that, and how do you see the role of anthropology in the world?
Right, yeah, the Church of Anthropology is sort of a name, an ironic name that I've given to a certain tendency, I think, in anthropology to be very inward-looking and to have that sort of perspective on the discipline that it has a message, a gospel almost, to preach to the world, which is about anthropology itself, but also about certain sort of moral perspectives, and also that it places itself as mainly a moral message rather than a professional one to the world, sort of being very normative, but in a way that it doesn't really involve itself, but sort of, at a safe distance, preaching in which direction the world should move. And I think there's a lot to learn from practicing anthropologists and their much more direct involvement in the problems of the world, trying to solve them with all the challenges and dilemmas and compromises also sometimes that involves.
Mm-hmm. And actually, speaking of this, you spent over a decade heading anthroanalysis, which is Center for Applied Anthropology based at the University of Copenhagen in Denmark. And in this role, you oversaw numerous projects where anthropologists were working closely together with partners in organizations and in society, and really to solve very practical problems. So based on this experience, what were the most important lessons that you learned about making anthropology relevant to other people's problems, to quote the title of your chapter?
Right. I think that a really important contribution that anthropology can make is to reframe questions and problems. That on the one hand, that we take the problems that we are presented with from our collaborative partners who are practicing, people from all kinds of disciplines who are managers or practitioners of various professional disciplines. When they collaborate with anthropologists, they have a particular understanding of a problem that they want to solve. And anthropologists have to take that on board, take the problem seriously, but not necessarily the definition of the problem or the understanding of the problem. So it's very often the anthropologist's contribution to expand the understanding of which solutions might be possible here, or to ask new questions that the professionals that we're working with did not necessarily think about beforehand. So it's this balance between taking the problem seriously, but not necessarily the definition of the problem or the scope of the solution or the possible solution. We can help expand the understanding of it.
Right. And since you have been working on so many applied projects over the years, I know that you could tell us about many of these projects, but if you were to share with us one that particularly inspired you, or one where you thought that the problem you were working on really could not have been solved without the input of anthropologists.
Yes, there's one example that I also used in the article, which is about a collaborative project that we had with a DFDS, a Danish shipping company, which had installed a number of information systems to support the decisions of captains and navigators on board the ships. And the company did not understand how these systems were used, and particularly why they were not used. And it was essential to have anthropologists on board the ships to do field work, and to follow the daily routines of the crew and understand why these systems were challenging fundamental organizational issues on board the ship and in the relationship between the ship and the shore, as it is the company offices in land. And that's an example of how we expanded the understanding of the problem, that it was not a technical issue or just a question of whether users understood the technologies that were installed, but actually that it has a lot of repercussions on board the ship that we needed to understand in the company.
And one final question. So in the chapter, we also ask you to list 5 tips for anthropologists who might be interested in building their careers as practitioners. And I wanted to ask if you could share one piece of advice that you found particularly helpful in your own career and that others could find helpful as well.
I think that practicing anthropology, when you move from university into practice, then you have to think about that the university teaches you one version of anthropology, which is sort of the research and research-based, that you're trained to do research in an academic sense, and that you learn a lot from that, of course, and you that's the basis of your professional activity afterwards. But you need to understand that you have to combine that with your own interest, your own understanding of the world, and the issues that you want to contribute to, or the areas that you want to work with. And you have a lot to learn when you leave university. And you have to do a lot of work to combine the two. That anthropology as such in university doesn't teach you what's important for you to do in your professional career. You have to make those choices yourself. Find out what's important and interesting for you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Steffen, for talking
You're so welcome.
About your chapter. And we are very excited for the book to be out.
Yeah, so am I. I'm looking so much forward to read all the other chapters and have a chance to look at the book as a whole.